Hi, today we're going to talk about using automation with MailChimp to help prepare a podcast guest. Now, I don't know about you, but sometimes, as the host of a show, the host of the Engaging Missions show, I sometimes book a guest days or weeks, sometimes multiple weeks in advance. In fact, sometimes even a couple of months in advance. And that can be a long time for the preparation. It can be a long time between that booking and then when that guest actually finally appears on the show. And so, what I've done and what you might be able to do with your podcast guests is to create some automated workflows to help provide an incredible guest experience, the kind of thing that you might like for them to have in terms of providing timely communication and keeping that communication open without overwhelming them and continuing to provide value. Now, as the host of the Engaging Missions show, at this time, I've been doing this for about 3.5 years. What I've done has changed quite a bit over the last few years, and I think it'll probably continue to refine. But today, I'm going to give you this video walkthrough, and we're just going to go through how my workflow works and how I use automation to provide a great guest experience. Now, the automation that I'm using starts with booking, and I'm currently using Book Like a Boss for my booking. In the past, I used another service. And the reason I say it starts here isn't because this helps automate my booking, although it does, but because I have it set up so that when a guest comes in to book, my booking form captures a lot of the information that I would need, some of which I'm able to use to help create some automation. So I capture things like an email address, a bio, some other things, some contact information, questions if they have any questions, comments, or concerns. And then I also get right down here one of the most important pieces, permission to publish. I don't do a signed form that says, hey, you've got my permission to record. What I do is I have this right here and say, in order to do an interview, it doesn't make sense if I can't publish it. So give me a yes or a no. And then I also ask if I can send them some additional information. I'm looking for that right here. Can I send you some helpful information about your interview? Yes or no? If they choose yes, then I treat that like they have given me permission to use an automated service like MailChimp to send them information. So that's how I get permission. And what I don't do is say, hey, please fill out this form. And then when you're done, go over here and fill out all the same information over there. It's ridiculous to have them enter that information twice. So I take that piece off of them. I'm currently entering it manually, and I'm waiting for some integrations to happen with Book Like a Boss so I can start passing that information to MailChimp automatically. But for right now, this is where I am. And this is what my form looks like. It also includes some other information, things like how will we record? And I give them the option to choose. I choose either a computer with Chrome or Firefox. That means I'd be using Zencaster. I have Skype, or I also have telephone as an option. Those are the three options I offer my guests. I prefer Zencaster because I typically get a better recording, but these are the options I give them. I want them to choose what they think is going to work best based on what I've provided them. And then because of the nature of my show, some of my guests need to use a pen name because they're in situations where things might be a little bit dangerous. So I give them the option, but that doesn't necessarily play so much into the automation portion of it. So I gather this information. After their booking, I go in and I manually put some information into MailChimp, and I'm going to go to MailChimp, and I have a specific email list that's set up just for this. I don't use this list to send them a new note saying, hey, I've published a new episode. I don't use this to send anything other than information pertaining to preparing for their interview, preparing for publication, a little bit of follow up, and then some occasional emails about continuing that relationship, but always looking for opportunities to highlight them. This is not where I would say, hey, please buy this thing or anything like that. This is looking for ways to offer value to my guests, not my listeners. Some of this information is pretty typical. You've got name, email address, things like that. But then I've also put in some custom information. I've got an interview date, and then a publication date, and I'll populate the interview date. I may not know the publication date at the time we record, partially because sometimes guests don't show up. And so I don't want to populate that until I have that information from them. I have an interview type. This is choosing what kind of recording option. You can see that in the past, I've also offered FaceTime In Person, and Blab, which is not even a service anymore, but that was an option that I offered there. And all of this is going to play into the automation. I have a couple of other dates that I don't typically use for things like birthday, stuff like that. Website, if they have one, the contact information, this is when we set up the booking over here, I asked them how they were gonna wanna record, and then if they choose Chrome, which would be, or I'm sorry, if they choose Zencastr, which is this web option, I'll create a custom link just for them, and I'll populate that here in Contact At. If they've chosen Skype or telephone, I'll take that information, either the phone number or their Skype contact, and I'll put that in the field for Contact At. If they have any special information, I'll put that right here. Booking information has to do with the date and time of our interview. Attended is something that I'll go back and populate after the interview. And I'll say, did they attend or did they not? It defaults to no. After they've attended, I'll change that to yes, and I'll add their publication date when I have that. And that'll be important later. Publication URL, this goes into what's the final URL going to be. Occasionally, I run special series, and so I've got some pieces right here. One part of the automation that I do that I think is unique, it might not be, is I try as much as I can to send a custom YouTube welcome to each of my guests, because many times I've only reached out to them by email, and I'd like to provide them a great experience where they can actually put a face with a name, even if it's been a couple of days since I've shaved. It might be early on a Saturday morning when I'm getting to this, but I want to put that kind of stuff in there. Because of the nature of my show, sometimes I have security concerns, so I'll capture that right here. If they need a pen name, I'll get that. Some other kind of information about the guest. And then also, if I have a guest where there's going to be some kind of custom prep, so maybe we're going to talk about a specific topic rather than covering their typical story, I might have a custom prep sheet just for them that'll cover some of the things we think we might talk about. Engaging topic is something that I'll fill out after the interview, where I'll put in a little bit of information about what I enjoyed about our interview, and that'll go into that automation. I have the Facebook share link. So when I'm getting ready, prepared to publish, which is something I was working on tonight, I'll create and schedule a Facebook post to go out shortly after the interview goes live, and I will grab that link because it's pre-scheduled, and I'll throw that right in here so that I can populate some information as well. And then again, don't worry too much. We're going to go through all the different pieces in this. I've just added the option to text a cell, and I haven't yet started implementing that. That's something that another guest suggested, because he said, hey, when I get these emails from MailChimp, sometimes they end up in my promotions folder. So you might want to send somebody a text and say, hey, sent you an email the other day. Please let me know if you didn't get it. Something like that, just as a kind of a teaser. I haven't really worked that one out yet, but it's something that I'm preparing for. So you can see that this is a continual work in progress. So these are all of the fields that I use for my email. Typically, an email list will just have maybe name, first name, last name, and email address. I've added a bunch of other stuff to help run my automation. Now for the automation, and I have several steps. I'll just go straight to the first one. When a guest books an interview, I'll put in their information, and then shortly after I put that information in, they'll get an email that looks something like this. And I'm not gonna cut anybody's privacy, so I'm not gonna show you a lot of the details as far as like showing you a live mail merge, but it'll say something like hi, and then what's their name. I see that we have an interview. I'm looking forward to it, which is true. Here's the information that I have so far. So this is basically just me saying, hey, got it. We're good to go. I'll send you some more information later. Then about a day or so later, and this is based on the time when they join the list or when I add them to the list, then a couple days after that one, they'll get this email right here. Says, hey, a couple of days ago, I touched base. Think it's going to be great. In the meantime, I know that it's hard to, and this is something where I've applied some logic. So if I did a YouTube welcome, then they'll see this. If I didn't, then they won't. But this part right here, they'll see, and that's just basically just an if then. I should mention, if you want to get copies of the actual scripts that I send, just shoot me an email, brian@engagingmissions.com. I'd be glad to provide that to you for right now. Uh, and it'll say, hey, I know it's hard to put a face on it, so here's a quick video. I hope you like it. That's a custom video that I do just for that guest, and it'll put a link in that right there. Then before we've even recorded the interview, I'm going to go ahead and ask them, hey, do you know of anybody else who might benefit from being on the show? If so, I'd love to have their email address, reach out to them. If you'd like to chat before we talk, and then I've got a link right here, and that will open up to another booking page right here where they can book something, and it'll be just a short chat where we'll talk. but that in case they're uncomfortable and would like to chat, they can do that. And then, by the way, if you'd like to check out the show, you can subscribe right here. Nothing pushy. When that's done, it's going to transition them to the same list, but a different workflow. So this workflow right here only has two emails, one on the day that they book, and then one a couple of days later. After they're done, it's going to transition them to another workflow. And this is the pre-interview workflow. So 7 days before our interview, they're going to get an email, and it's going to look something like this. Hey, it's about a week till our interview. If something's come up and you have a conflict, please let me know. So basically, hey, I know this is coming. Things happen. If something's happened, let me know. As we're preparing, and this is just me kind of deferring to them. Some people I know like to prepare heavily. Some people prefer to kind of go by the seat of their pants. So I want you to prepare the way that you prepare best. And here's a link to some of the things that we typically cover. And that link will take them right here where I have a typical interview flow. So we're going to typically we'll talk about getting to know you, your ministry, or this chosen topic. And then we'll focus a little bit on our listeners, some information about the show. By the way, we focus on stories. As you're preparing, you might want to think about some things like what led you to Christ? How did you get started in ministry? If you need a framework, you might consider this framework. And I've actually got that listed. It's a framework that I kind of took from something else and added a few pieces and even an option for them to download it. And then this kind of just runs them through the typical questions they might consider. I never get to all of these. And during the interview, if something sounds interesting, we're going to get off of this and we're going to follow that thread. But this gives them some things to think about that might be interesting to talk about. Then, if you'd like to use that, you can. You don't have to. By the way, here are a few tips for preparing for a high quality interview, and this sends them to some information about prepare. Ooh, looks like I need to update this. I have a plugin that went out of date. So here's some information about preparing for an internet interview, and I just tell them right up front. I've got some tips that apply if you're using a computer, some if you're on a mobile device like a tablet or a phone, and then tips that apply in both situations. And then it just runs them through some things that they can use to make sure that that they have the best opportunity to sound great and for everything to work properly. That's all 7 days prior to their interview. Then 5 days prior, so 2 days after that, they're going to get another email that says, hey, as I think about our time together, I like to make sure that I capture some of the times when God really worked. As as you think about these, maybe there are a couple of stories that are pivotal moments that you might think about. Just hit reply and let me know about those. Very few people take me up on this, but I've gotten the feedback that sometimes this question helps people focus in on those pivotal moments, and that gives us a great interview because what it does is it really helps highlight the before, the transition, and the after, and the way that God worked through that. So I like having that piece in there. Pick that up from another podcast. 2 days prior, I'm going to send them a little bit of additional information. So I've got some contact information. Hey, we've got the booking information. I've got it right here. And then I'm looking forward to this. By the way, I've got another option for you. If you're interested and you don't have to, I have a text-based interview that you can do that's a little bit different. It's all about how you got started. And if you'd like to, you can fill that out. You can spend as much time on or as little as you'd like. That's totally up to you. No pressure, but it gives them, first off, it gives me an opportunity to say, hey, got this coming in a couple of days. By the way, if you're interested, here's another opportunity for exposure. And this goes out on the blog. So then that's another way that people can find them. Then on the day of the interview, they're going to get an email from MailChimp that says, hey, looking forward to it. Here's my mobile number in case you have any snags. And then that's pretty much it. After the interview is complete, I'm going to go back into MailChimp and I'm going to check the box that said, yes, they attended. And I'm going to put in the publication date when I think it's going to publish. And then the day after the interview, they're going to get this email. It says, hey, I enjoyed what you talked about. I really liked what you shared about. And then this is where that topic, the engaging topic, goes in. Thanks so much. I checked, and here's the date that you're going to be published. And then by the way, I'll try to make sure that I have a preview available for you a couple days prior in case you'd like to listen. And then some opportunities to connect on social media. And they've got the opportunity to connect with Engaging Missions or with me personally. That's totally up to them. And I like to do that, not so much because I want to ask them to take action, but because I would prefer that they have the opportunity without any pressure to choose whether they want to connect on social media. That's totally up to them. A lot of my guests do, not all of them. That's totally fine. Then we're getting ready for publication. I typically have at least a 2, sometimes as many as a 5 to 6 week lag between when I record and when things go up. So there is a period of silence there, but then 14 days before we publish, they're just going to get a note and says pretty much, hey, in a couple of weeks, it's going to be up. We're getting everything put together. I'll be sending you some emails over the next few days so that you know what's going on. That's just, look out, it's coming. Then 9 days before publication, they're going to get another email that says, hey, we're starting to work on this, and these are the 2 people on my team that are going to be working. This is what they'll be doing, and this is how the workflow goes. Helps make my guests feel a little bit enfranchised in the process and lets them know that we're working on it. Not so much because I want them to know that we're working hard, but just because I'd like for them to know, hey, this is what's going on, and they can feel like they have a better handle on it. On the day of publication, they're going to get an email at 6 in the morning, my local time, and apparently I can't click on this. I'm going to try one more time by reloading. There we go. On the day of publication, looks like it's not going to come up. So I will edit it and we'll just do it this way. So they'll get an email that says, hey, good morning. Your interview just went up a few minutes ago. Typically, it's about 60 minutes ago. Looking forward to getting it out to the world. If I have a special topic, I especially like what you shared about whatever that topic was. And we talked about that prior. So this is the second time that's coming up. I had a great time. Looking forward to seeing what God does with it. Here's the URL. I'd really appreciate it if you could take a minute to share this out. It really helps us spread the word. And then if I have that Facebook link, then I've got this piece right here that's going to say, here's a link to where I shared it on Facebook. If you're interested, you can just click that link and share it straight from there. What that does is it gives them a really quick and easy way to share it that also raises the visibility of the Engaging Missions page. Definitely not required. They can share it however they'd like. They're the guest. If they don't want to share it, they don't have to. That's their thing. And then also, if they prefer Twitter, here's a link to do just that. And that's just a really quick, short Twitter URL that's going to pre-populate with something along the lines of, I had a great time. Check it out, please. And that's pretty much that. I'm going to resume that so I don't miss it for my next show. Then 7 days after publication, they're going to get an email that says, hey, it's been about a week. I'd love to know if you have any feedback for me or if you've received any feedback. This is one of the ways I like to close the loop. So I always like to look for feedback for things that I can do better. I ask most of my guests when I get done with the interview, if we have enough time left afterwards, if they've got any feedback so that I can continue to refine what I'm doing and do it better. But then I'm also going to ask them afterwards, hey, can you provide me some feedback? Sometimes I've gotten feedback about things that are good, sometimes some opportunities to improve. Take those, try and make myself better. Then 5 days after that, they're going to get another email that says, hey, it's been about a week and a half. Some people like to know numbers. Some people don't. If you'd like, just let me know, and I'll share with you how many people have downloaded. What I do there is that gives them the opportunity to choose. If they'd like to know how many people downloaded, awesome. If they don't, not a problem. No problem either way. And then it also gives them 14 days later, so a couple days after that, gives them the opportunity to stay on and continue receiving emails. That is my email automation flow. Everything from after the guest books, through the interview, through the publication, and then some of the follow-up for that. If you'd like to know more about this, please feel free to email me, brian@engagingmissions.com. I'm the host of the Engaging Missions show, and I'm also an audio engineer at Top Tier Audio. If you'd like more information about my show, about what I offer, or any of those things, please feel free to let me know. Be glad to share anything that I can. And like I said before, if you would like to have the actual scripts that I use, including all of the code to make some of the automation work, I'm glad to share that with you. Just let me know, brian@engagingmissions.com. I hope you found this valuable. If you did, please click the like. And if you know somebody else who could benefit from this, please let them know. Just send them the link or share it on social media. Find a way to get it to them so that if they could benefit from this, they can provide a great experience for their guests, even if it doesn't look exactly like mine.